In today's video, we're going to be covering over count them, 5 easy woodworking projects that you can make for your friends and family for the holiday season, birthdays, whatever. We're going to be covering over drink coasters, wine boxes, cutting boards, inlay picture frames, and of course boxes with box joints because hey, everyone loves having a cool little box or jewelry box. So this will give you all the basics. Now this video is just kind of an overview of the different projects to kind of see if that's something you want to work and build. At the beginning of each project, there will be a link that will take you to that project's extended video. So definitely make sure to click on that. That'll be somewhere up here. In the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon for all of our newest videos. In the meantime, let's get to the build. All right, so this first video is going to be going over drink coasters, which we actually made when we first started getting into woodworking many years ago. And with drink coasters, you can make them out of pretty much just about anything. So feel free to be a little creative. We made ours out of plywood, which is nice, but you could easily go and make them a little bit fancier, make them out of walnut, cedar, maple, you know, whatever floats your boat pretty much. You also can cut them and inlay them with like a piece, just kind of like how we're gonna go and cut apart the plywood. You can just cut them down into little slices and then kind of glue them together if you want. There's so many different options, so many different styles that you can do with them, and making the drink holder is pretty easy. Like I said, as soon as the video starts here, you're gonna have a little option up here to go ahead and just skip to the actual main video of how we made it. I definitely can tell you that having a sled helps, but is not required whatsoever. But a table saw, I'd say you're probably kind of stuck with a table saw. You really do need to have some sort of table saw or contractor saw to really be able to make a decent cut, especially if you're going to be doing like inlays in particular, and also keep them square too. So make sure that you definitely take heed to that. I wouldn't do this probably with a skill saw or something like that. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to the drink coaster build. Okay, so for these, basically all you're really doing is just cutting down scraps of wood, whether it be plywood or whatever. After you do that, you're just going to be laminating on some sides unless you like the plywood look, kind of like we did right here. So pretty simple process overall. And then just break off the little ends. After you're done with that, if you like, you can go ahead and stain them, which is obviously a pretty easy process. Then after you get done with that, you can just attach the little legs to the bottom of one of the coasters, which they're not really legs, they look like legs. They're just like basically little spots to kind of hold the coasters in place per se. After you're done assembling everything, just give it a good oil-based finish, like polyurethane oil-based, which is the one that's normally in the silver can. And these should stay good for many years. We actually built these many years ago, probably about 2-3 years ago, and they've yet to fail us. And it's always a good idea to put little rubber bumpers in the bottom just to make sure they don't clack against the table when you put them down. And they basically look like that. There you go. Now you got your holder and your coasters, and it looks really nice for whomever you're giving that to. All right, this next one is amazing, and we had some great feedback on this next one. This is actually building a wine box, and I will tell you, it looks complicated, and it does take a little bit of time, but you don't have to go into as much detail as we went into. So I do want to throw that out there. The wine box, you can go a lot simpler. The way we made ours, those wine boxes will probably last a good 100+ years. But sometimes you just want something that's cute, and if it lasts 10 years, you're pretty happy, and you know what, there's literally nothing wrong with that. So Just something to kind of think of when you're watching the video. But yeah, the wine boxes are absolutely amazing. Great gift, and of course you can throw wine in there. And so yeah, I mean, how cool is that? Alcohol and a cool woodworking project, that'll pretty much get most of your relatives pretty happy. What can I say? Especially around the holiday times. So on that note, let's go ahead and get to the build. As you can see on your screen, we have all the dimensions for the wine box up here. You don't have to write these down if you're going to go see the main video, but ultimately those are the dimensions that you want to cut down your boards to. Now once you've done all this, then we're going to go ahead and move on and put the table saw at a 45-degree angle. And this pretty much brings you to the end of the project pretty quickly, because everything being cut at a 45 is the primary part of the build itself. And the rest of the stuff that's coming up is mostly optional when it comes down to how the process works. Just make sure that when you're doing this you keep a really steady hand. That's really important. Now right here you're seeing us cut out the part for the top of the box. And this is just using a dado blade as all we're doing here. I do recommend a dado blade for this versus using a double pass method on a blade. It just makes it so much cleaner. And this part here, we're cutting off the top of the front of the box, so this way we can make that cool lid that you saw in the intro. And basically that just glues right onto the top, and it gives it like a little handle to use to pull off. Drill a little 1-inch hole in the center for the fingers, and then you can use a spline jig like this to go and put some fancy splines in. And that actually is pretty much about it. You're just going to go and push those in there and give it a quick sand job, and then finish it up. Then you're off to the races. Pretty simple. And if you want to get extra fancy, you can even use some shaving. All right, this next video is going to be going over how to make a cutting board. And again, this will just be a abbreviated version of the longer video, so make sure you're checking for that little notation up above. But this, we actually made this out of several different woods. I believe it was Padauk, Purple Heart, despite the fact that people said don't use oak, we actually did use oak. And I think we had some maple in there and stuff like that. But anyway, needless to say, it's a really, really colorful cutting board, and it's something that anybody can make. Going into the level that we made it was definitely a lot more work than you probably would normally put into a cutting board, but it came out looking beautiful. And if you're trying to give a really, really nice gift, I would probably go along with all the design choices that we made, or something that's very similar to what we did. But if you're just trying to get something really basic out, honestly, it's just glue up the boards and maybe do a nice little profile on the edging on there, and it's a super fast in and out project. But if you'd like to see that, again, like I said, a little notation should be popping up here in just a moment, and let's get to the build on that. Alright, the first thing you want to do is just go and cut your lumber down into strips. So you just kind of want to determine what size strips you want based off from how wide you and how deep you want your cutting board to be. There's no real rules on this, but I would recommend going with something that's fairly meaty, just that way it gives that cool visual appeal, and it makes it nice and heavy so it won't slide around as much. And as you can see here, we use several different woods when doing this, and it does make a really shocking appearance when you do it that way, in a good way. So definitely something that looks very impressive. And then just cut them down to the rough size that you want the cutting board to be. So that's what we're doing here on the sled. And then pretty much just glue them up. I mean, there's not really much to it. You just spread the glue all over one side and then just keep pushing them together until you get to the last one. Glue that in and then clamp it down real good. Just try to keep it nice and balanced. If I was to go back and do it again, I would have used cauls on the top. Then you don't have to do this part here, which is leveling. But if you do mess it up, you can always do this. We'll also have a video for that up here too at the corner. You just want to make sure it's all good and level, because trust me, you'll notice when you're cutting if it isn't. And then if you want, you can add some accents, like we put a 45 on each side of the cutting board. This made it a little bit easier because we didn't have to put handles, so we got to kind of cheat our way through, and honestly, it came out looking beautiful because of it. And then we just went ahead and used a Roman ogee here on the sides just to give it a little bit of a profile, which came out looking really sharp. And you'll notice that we actually put a juice groove in here as well. We didn't wind up filming that part. And then just a quick sand job to kind of get it down, and then some wax and oil mix that we used. And there you go. That's really about it. Just attach some feet after drilling some quick holes, and you got a really nice cutting board. All right, our next video is going to be going over how to make inlaid picture frames. Now, again, this is going to be a very condensed video because this is actually a 3-part video that goes into how to make the jig, how to make the, the splines, how to go and put together the whole picture frame, whole 9 yards. But I can definitely tell you it is a labor of love, but at the end of the day, totally worth it. It's going to be kind of time consuming, and there is a fair amount of wood, believe it or not, involved in building out inlaid picture frames. But on that note, they look beautiful when they're done, and everybody just absolutely adores them, and they'll last for potentially hundreds of years, which is great. Your great-great-grandchildren are probably going to be seeing this. So, take some time with it and put some pride into it, because people are going to see it, 100 years from now. So that's a heck of a project to be able to go and build with wood. So on that note, let's go ahead and get to the build. On this first part, we want to make sure we're using a flat tooth grind blade. So basically it's a flat groove on the top of the blade. And we just basically slide over the fence to something that looks nice for our needs, pretty much. And then just run it through the table saw, creating like a data groove, probably about 50% of the way into the wood. The size of the wood doesn't matter much though. And then to put the inlay in, we're just going to put some glue in there after cutting down some strips. And then just pop the inlay material in there. Let that dry for a few hours. And then you can either cut it down on the table saw like we're doing here, or you can sand it down like we have here. And then you just want to put in a little spot here for the glass and all that. And then give it a nice little 45. And then a quick little glue job here to kind of get the frame put together. And then you can just tape it together. Or you can use one of these little guys. Just run it through a spline jig real quick. And there you go. Now you're just going to attach the splines like you did the inlays, and then just clamp those down in their own little way, kind of like this. After you get done sanding it all down and everything, go and put in the glass or plexi like we did, the photo, and then a piece of cardboard in the back to make sure it pushes all in, and then attach a piece of paper to the back. This is literally a grocery bag. All right, this next video is one that is just really beautiful. So when you're ready to go and kind of up your woodworking game to the next level, doing boxes with box joints is always a great way to show off the fact that you've got some craftsmanship behind you. Now, box joints typically do require a dado blade in order to be able to actually do them. You could do a single blade with them as long as it's a flat top tooth grind, I believe is how that's actually said. Basically, instead of having little V's, it has a flat top on it. So you could do it that way and just do 2 passes, but your box joints aren't going to be as perfect as you would get with a dado blade. So if you live in a country where you can buy dado blades, the sizing is only 1/4 of an inch, so you can fit it in most contractor saws, as long as you get a 6-inch dado set. And I'll put a link, actually there's actually a link in that video down below that actually goes into what type of dado blade you want to get. The jig is super easy to make. You just make a little 1/4 inch pin, and then you space it 1/4 inch from the blade, and that's pretty much it. So when you're seeing that in the video, just remember it's literally just 2 pieces of wood 1/4 of an inch away from the blade. That's it. So pretty simple. But on that note, we'll go ahead and we'll definitely have a link to the video for that one up here at the top, and let's get to the builds. You want to cut down your material to the size that you want your box to turn out to be. On this part here, we're just going to go ahead and run this through the dado blade so that way we can make our box joints for each side. Then we're going to do a dry fit to make sure it all fits together. As you can see, we're making a few boxes here, so quite a bit of a process. And then for the bottoms and the tops, we're just going to go ahead and use a dado blade to cut an equivalent slot. So in this case, we're using 1/4 of an inch. As you can see, we just kind of popped in the bottom, and then we'll pop on the top, or the bottom, depends upon how you look at it. That just slides right in there, and then it can be glued in later. And then after gluing each of the box joints, then we're just going to go ahead and slip them all together, and then clamp them down so they have even pressure on each side. You don't have to go too crazy with this, just enough to hold them together. After it dries, then just glue the tops, which is really easy to do. Pop those in there. Do the other side for the bottom, and then even clamping pressure all the way around. Trust me, this will save you on some sanding later. And then we're just going to go and cut the top off. And there we go. Easy as that. Give it a quick little sanding to get rid of the saw marks. And then we're off to finish. Then we're just going to put a little liner here on the bottom, a little stick-on stuff. And then we're just going to go ahead and attach some hinges and also some front clasps to give it some style. We've got a little retro look on this. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed our video over 5 easy woodworking gifts. Obviously some of them are more easier than others. Like I said, definitely check out the links that were up at the top right on each of the videos to be able to get a full layout for the projects or project that you're interested in building. Most of these projects are great for batching out, so definitely feel free to do like 4 or 5 boxes, or do like, you know, 4 or 5 picture frames, or drink coasters. Drink coasters, you can just make just ridiculous amounts of drink coasters so easily. So that's such a fast project, and it's a great gift. But regardless of which project that you decide to do, or projects you decide to do, you know, definitely hit those links on here, and just keep coming back to the video if you need those links, so we can get to the correct videos, because some of them are pretty old. So, but yeah, if you have any questions, comments, definitely leave those down in the comments below. In the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon for all of our newest videos. Until next time, take care, be safe, and spend some time with your loved ones.